This is Adam here. I'm the managing editor for Reactive Training Systems. Here today, doing a little chatteroo with Bryce Krawczyk. He is the uh, Canadian national record holder in the 105 kilo class, and now IPF world record holder in the deadlift. I don't want to steal your thunder there. I'll let you introduce yourself. Just go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Name is Bryce. I've been lifting for probably close to 10 years, 3 or 4 of those competitively, powerlifting. First meet was in 2012, and since then won provincial championships, Western championships, came in second at nationals. Recently won North Americans and managed best classic lifter and a whole bunch of records and stuff. So yeah, it was really cool.
That's really impressive. How did you get started with powerlifting? What kind of drew you in?
When I first started lifting, honestly, I just didn't want to be a skinny kid anymore. I just
Dude, that's everybody's story, man. You're stealing
yeah,
stealing
yeah,
everybody's thunder
exactly. I
there.
was like, I think it was the same height I am now, 5'10", 5'11".
Yep.
But I found one of my recent training logs moving and was like ecstatic to have hit 165 pounds body weight. So, it was a long road.
And now
But
you're
yeah,
what,
started
230?
off just trying to gain some weight. And then just kind of really, really loved it and wanted to compete in something. But the whole spray tan mankini thing didn't really appeal to me, so I decided to get into powerlifting.
That's awesome. Yeah, you're like where I want to be in about 7 years, pretty much. You're exact. It's funny. You're my height, and I'm like I just cracked 200 pounds body weight,
Yeah.
and I think in high school I weighed like 135, so I can totally
Oh yeah.
relate to where you're coming from. That's awesome to hear. Do you find that was you had to worry about it, or did it just kind of happen naturally? Do you think?
With the weight gain?
Yeah, weight gain.
Oh, it was yeah, I definitely had to worry about it. I had to start tracking my calories. I had to start force feeding almost. Like for a while there, I was making beef shakes. I'd blend up beef and rice and avocado and beef stock and whatever else and like make shakes because I couldn't eat enough. So I would drink essentially cold soup all day long.
Oh wow, that's
So it was, yeah, there was a lot of effort involved with putting on the weight for sure.
that's nuts. So so you got into lifting. Where you didn't obviously start doing. This is before you. That's kind of your progression. Is you met before you met Mike. What did your training kind of consist of, and how did you make progress?
I
As it, yeah.
started off kind of just doing my own programming. I had one day where I'd do bench and then some upper body stuff. One day where I'd squat and then do some lower body stuff. One day for deadlift. One day for overhead press. And then after, I don't know, a couple months of that, maybe a year of that, switched to 5-3-1 and made a whole lot of progress. Like I think I put 100 pounds on my squat, 100 pounds on my deadlift, and maybe 10 pounds on my bench press because that's always been a struggle for me. But that's all a lot of progress. Then I started working with a coach locally, saw a lot of progress there. And then from there, sort of branched out and looked into some online stuff. I worked with Brian Carroll for a couple months.
Okay.
And then when Mike had a spot free up he had a waiting list for a while there. As soon as that freed up, I jumped at the chance to work with him.
Yeah, he just started taking on clients again, and that's due to him bringing on coaches, including myself. I'm one of the coaches as well. So
Yeah.
we started taking on clients again, and that's cool that he was able to pick you up as a lifter. Your numbers speak for themselves. That's amazing. Um, when did you find that as you progressed from like a beginner to intermediate lifter, when did you find that gains stop happening, or have you always found that it's been steady and just always tried to kind of change things up, or what did you?
That's one thing that's always kind of been steady for me. my squat and my deadlift have been moving since I started pretty much. Um, I think everybody kind of goes through, and I coach myself. I run a club of powerlifters out of Calgary called Calgary Barbell. So I've seen time and time again, people kind of go through what I call growing pains. You'll squat a certain way for a while and you'll make a lot of progress, and all of a sudden you'll bang up your hip a little bit, and you'll have to take a couple steps back and reassess and change your stance and bar position or whatever else. And then, once you get that dialed in, it starts to feel comfortable again. You start making progress again. So, I mean, that's been about as held up as I've been in my squat and deadlift. My bench has been pretty much the eternal struggle.
Yep.
So just finally rounding the corner of getting some decent technique locked in and getting some consistency there. So starting to see it move a little bit. But yeah, squat and deadlift have always, especially the deadlift, has always come pretty naturally to me.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're IPF world record holder, so I mean, it would seem that you're moving in the right direction, if nothing else. Yeah. And it's funny, that lift in particular is very, very competitive. It's getting more competitive on the world scene, I think. I mean, anybody who's creeping up on an 800-pound deadlift is well above the elite, in my opinion. So, I mean, you're right up there. Let's talk about. Well, tell me a little bit about your gym. What kind of facility do you run? How many lifters do you have? And
Okay. So I do a lot of personal training for your average everyday person, but most of it is tailored towards powerlifters. So we have a pretty bare bones facility. It's in the barracks here in Calgary, and it's cement floors, cinder block walls. Not a lot of mirrors. It's really dusty. It used to be like a woodworking shop. So it's run out of a pre-existing gym that was called, or still is called, Smash. So Calgary Barbell's home is in Smash, and I coach, I don't know, anywhere between 20 and 50 powerlifters, depending on the time of season. We have people who come and go for work often. But about there in terms of competing powerlifters. So we host a lot of strongman competitions. We got a really good contingent of strongman athletes, and are growing very quickly. So,
how long have you guys been in business?
Calgary Barbell's been just over a year now, and before that, I actually worked out of a World Health until powerlifting essentially helped me estrange myself from that a little bit.
Didn't like you dropping the weights, huh?
Yeah, just a lot of it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the way the fitness industry is, and
yeah,
whether I think worldwide, it's probably very similar. It doesn't matter if you're in the U.S. or Canada.
I still look back at it, and I had some really good experiences. I met a lot of my clients and a lot of the people that are still with me today. It's just moving forward. It wasn't the place to be as for what I wanted to do. We'll say.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. What was I had a question I was going to ask. Let's move on. Let's talk about injuries. So you mentioned like injuries and injury prevention. What do you do in particular to kind of keep yourself fresh?
I go to see a couple of different chiropractors around town, and other than that, I always err on the side of caution with my training. I try to use the RPE scale personally almost as a 10 being maximum technical proficiency. So a 9 being I could have performed one more rep with adequate technique. I don't often, I think, push to maybe a true 8 or a true 9 where, 1 or 2 more reps would have been a full-on gutted out, barely made lift. And I think with the high frequency and the high volume that Mike prescribes a lot of the time, I think being smart about when it's time to, hit some ammonia and crank the music and do something stupid, and when it's time to just get good quality reps in, has done a lot for me longevity wise.
That's definitely a recurring theme with Mike's training for sure, is knowing when to turn on the gas and when not to. I think the discipline, it's all about, comes down to training discipline in that regard. So yeah, that's really refreshing to hear you say that, and that's a lesson that everybody pretty much needs to listen to, I think. So
Yeah, it's certainly something I try and instill in my athletes, and something that has brought myself and everybody that I've worked with a great deal of success.
that's awesome. Uh, so how did you actually, you just met Mike, you just looked online and just heard about Mike, or how'd you hear about him?
I'm actually good buddies with this guy Brody Label.
Mm,
He runs a
yep.
powerlifting club in Cold Lake, and he and I go back a little ways. And he started working with Mike, and kind of told me about the training. That it was high frequency, high volume. Almost everything was some variation of a squat, bench press, or a deadlift. So there was a lot of specificity. And just, I saw his progress with Mike. So I looked at that, and I looked at a lot of the stuff that Mike had written and some of the stuff he's putting out online, and it very much spoke to my own philosophy and sort of echoed the way that I felt about things. Like, okay, I could do, 100 sets of 20 on the glute, or not the glute ham raise, but the reverse hyper, or I could do some stiff-legged deadlifts. What do you think is going to build a better deadlift? And to me, it makes sense that some sort of deadlift variation would be more useful. So that sort of stuff really spoke to me.
So we go back and forth about this, in talking about the pros and cons of specificity versus, hey, when is it time to break away from that and do something non-specific? Do you have any set rules that you follow in terms of, hey, if I feel like something's lagging, it's time to maybe jump on the reverse hyper, or maybe it's time to do some, upper back work, that sort of stuff. Is there what kind of guide do you use to determine when it's time for that?
It's hard to say. I guess it would be the distance from competition. In my off season, I tend to maybe put a little bit more focus into some upper back specific training, or doing a little bit of arms training or shoulders or whatever. I feel like my upper body's always been a little bit lagging, and that's probably why my bench press is still trying to catch up to everything else. So, I try and do some bodybuilder style work once a week and throw that stuff in when I'm far enough away out from a meet. I do a lot of like sort of bulking and cutting and that kind of stuff too. So when I'm on a caloric surplus, I feel like I can afford to fit some more of that stuff in. And if I'm cutting down or just maintaining, I try to keep it more specific, I guess.
Regarding your bench, what do you think is like holding it back? Is it frequency, or is it just injuries, or is it just a combination of things, you think?
I think the biggest thing was consistency. I think it took me a long time to get the motor patterns dialed in, to get my back tight enough, to get enough activation out of the right muscles. I have a strong back. I deadlift a lot, and deadlifting works really well for me. But I feel like you need to use your back in a very different way to properly bench press. So I think it took me a while to sort of wrap my head around what it meant to set up and what it means to be tight on a bench press.
Yep.
And that's something that I see time and time again in newer athletes is it's just like it always needs to be tighter. Everything needs to be tighter. You need to be more involved, more engaged, and more purposeful. And especially with the bench, that took me a long time to figure that out, and then to dial it in, and then to get consistent in a way that I could train and not hurt myself. It's been two steps forward, one step back kind of thing for a while, but I feel like I'm sort of starting to round the edge of some progress there. So
When you bench pretty wide or narrow, or is it pretty wide?
I'm ring fingers on the rings now. I started off really wide, but I feel bringing it in a little bit helped me get a little bit more tightness out of my back.
Okay.
So for me, that gives me a little more pop off the chest, which
right, because you got
helps.
somewhere to go when you're trying to pull the bar apart a little bit, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I find with the wide grip, Mike's got me doing a lot of wide grip stuff right now, and it's good because I'm slow. Like, I have no speed with the wide grip. I can move the weight and I can grind pretty well, but I find I get a lot more consistent power, a little bit narrower.
Yeah. So let's. I'm jumping around here. I'm going to talk about competition a little bit.
Sure.
When's your next big meet?
My next meet will be February. I'll be doing Canadian Nationals.
Yep.
And then after that, I'm going to go out to Texas and do Worlds.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot of people there. I know because we got a lot of American RTS lifters, so we're probably going to have a big, huge following there going to IPF Worlds. At least
Yeah.
most of us spectating, I would imagine. Yeah, man. But you've never competed at Worlds before, have you?
No, no, I did. I did North Americans in July, and that was the biggest meet I've done so far.
Wow. So you have a pretty short competition history then.
Yeah, I think 2012. So
Oh wow, yeah.
3 years.
Well, so you didn't compete at all for like the first 6 years then, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. It was just a lot of trying to get bigger and partying.
That's funny. So, well, have you found that um, are you the kind of guy that goes into a meet and needs a handler, or do you find that you make your own attempt selection?
Um, I think a little bit of both is ideal for me. I like to have people to put my numbers into the table or whatever. And like I had my buddies Seth and Ryan come out with me. Props to them if they're watching this. They came out and took care of me at North Americans, and they did a fantastic job. So it's big for me to have people there behind the curtain, helping out in the warm up room and that kind of stuff. Telling me how to time things and those kinds of things, because that's the kind of stuff that as a coach I try to worry about for others. So when I'm in the athlete role, I try and have others to worry about that for me. In terms of the attempts and stuff, I've used Mike's recommendations the last two meets, and I've gone 9 for 9 both meets. Previous to that, I also had a lot of success picking my own attempts, but like a good athlete should, I trust my coach.
That's awesome. Yeah. Let's see. What else can we talk about? Do you follow any of the lifters in Canada? Do you do you? I mean, there's a pretty big. I guess you guys have a lot of really competitive lifters. I know
Mm-hmm.
Josh Hancock is one that comes to mind.
Yeah,
He's a pretty big name. He's one of the best from Canada all time, I think. If I
yeah.
look at the all time stats here.
I think he's number 2 right now, and I think Kelly Branton's number 1,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken.
But who do you idolize as a lifter? It can be anybody. Who do you look up to?
Um, oh boy, there's a lot of them, I guess. Mike, obviously.
Yeah.
I've always thought for me, it's not a lot of the times when I look at a lifter, it's sometimes the numbers aren't as impressive to me as the ability to proficiently pull off the movements. If you watch somebody go, 4 for 9 and barely got it out, but they total 2,200 or whatever, it's almost not as impressive to me as somebody who totals 1950 but goes 9 for 9 and makes every lift look good. I like a lot of the Russian lifters and stuff like that for that reason. There was a guy, Konovalov. I followed him for a while. Obviously, Milanichev, I think, is amazing.
Yep.
Here's a nut bar. It's always funny to watch his stuff because he's absolutely crazy. But I think he's a pretty good lifter. Jeremy Hamilton just came out of nowhere and set some crazy records. Good old Canadian boy.
Yeah. He'll probably be watching this.
That was really, really cool to see. Who else? Yeah, there's a lot of them, man. Like, I don't know, anybody that lifts well and isn't too overblown about their success, I think is doing a good job.
Yeah, that's a good point too, man. I really love the powerlifting community, and I love that a lot of the lifters that I've met are just humble, down to earth dudes and just people that I can relate to. But
Yeah.
there are, I think, are a few out there, like in any other sport and community, that let their ego get away with themselves a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I don't know. I think a lot of that's just human nature, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Some people get good at something and they're like, oh, that's cool. I like doing it. Other people get good at something and they're like, check me out. Watch me do this.
Yeah.
I'm awesome. And it's a difference in personality, right?
Sure. I mean, even there's some element of that. Everybody's got some element of that. It's just
Yeah.
how much do you limit it?
Or how much do you show?
Yeah, yeah,
You know?
yeah. That's funny. Let's see. I'm kind of running out of questions here.
Cool.
I wish I'd been a little more prepared, a little more mentally into this, because I'm like brain dead right now. But
Oh, no worries.
I don't know, any shout outs or anything like that, or well, actually, here's a good one. What's a recommendation you would give to a new lifter? What would you say to a brand new lifter?
I would say to a new lifter, try and find people that know what they're doing. That's probably the biggest thing. I'm really blessed and not blessed. Cut that. I don't like using that word. I'm really thankful to be able to help sort of create the environment that we're making at Calgary Barbell, where it's a place that people are similarly driven, whether it's to compete or not. People know what they're doing. They're often helping each other out, and we're honest with one another. If a squat's high, a squat's high. If a deadlift looked like shit, it looked like shit. I didn't have that when I was learning how to lift. I thought I was squatting 425 for sets of 6, and then the first time I tested my maxes, I said, okay, well, I should probably make sure I get to depth, and I took 100 pounds off my squat because I had no idea what I was doing. You know what I mean? I was like, yeah, I'll probably go 465, 485 today, and I think I got 365, and was like, Jesus, I barely made that. So yeah, getting around people that are gonna shoot you straight and let you know when things are, how things should look, and save you from busting yourself up, because everybody does it.
Yeah. So to that note, what would you tell an intermediate lifter looking to become an advanced lifter?
Be patient. Like, stay the course and look at where your working sets are. Especially if you're doing something like RTS. For me, it's like, I don't know how much my bench has come up. I don't know how much bigger my PRs have been. But if I look at my bench training the past 3 months, I'm consistently hitting volume in like the 310 to 330 range. Whereas previous to that, I was lucky to be at 300 plus for my working sets. My PRs, my really, really good days might not be that far off. But overall, as a trend, my training volume and my work sets average intensity has been a lot higher. So I think, track your metrics. Look at how you're performing on your shitty days as well as your best days. Try and get a bit of a wider scope than just what your all-time PRs are.
Yeah, strength gain is a marathon that lasts a lifetime. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's not quick.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh shit. Let's see, before we cut this off, you got any shout outs, anybody you want to say what's up to, or
I guess the whole crew at Calgary Barbell. My girlfriend Selena. I don't know. I'm not very experienced with shout outs. I haven't been in many positions where I've been able to shout out.
We don't really do a whole lot of that, to be honest, and I don't know. It's probably something we need to do more of. But
yeah,
this has been fun. I think that's just about all I got. But
awesome.
Hey, Bryce, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. And for everybody watching, if you like the video, please like the video, subscribe, etc. And take it easy. Peace.
Awesome.
Reactive Training Systems.